Buddy, welcome to our final bonus call before the challenge begins on Monday. I'm super excited to share this with you guys. I've been really looking forward to it. So I'm just going to make sure that you all can hear and see me. Let me know. And we will get started here. So let me see. I am typing in the chat for you guys. All right. So I think we are live. Welcome, everybody. This is the final bonus class before we get started on Monday with challenge number 1. So I'm really excited to share this story with you because it's pretty incredible, but in a lot of ways, it's also not uncommon. So I'm so excited to share this. I have students who say that this is the masterclass that impacted them the most. It's a really incredible story with a lot of lessons. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share the interview with you. It's been pre-recorded because Katie couldn't be with us today. And you guys can feel free to ask your questions, but know that you're asking me them, not Katie. So I will take all of your questions at the end after the interview is done. So go ahead and go and drop them in the chat as you have them, and I'll just keep them and then answer them at the end of the live stream. So I'm going to bring her on now, and let's see. Hopefully, tech will play nicely with me. So let's add her in.
What they don't know is we've been talking about this for a long time, and I know you and I are both so stoked the day is finally here where we get to deep dive into the possibilities. I'm just over the moon.
Yes. So I have started the recording then. For those who can't join us live, we'll have the replay. So I just want to get started a little bit by asking you kind of to tell us a little bit about who you are.
Well, I'm a mom, I'm a wife. I live in Washington, in Western Washington, where it rains all the time. So it's always green. And I'm working as a full-time integrator from home. I've been working from home for 5 years. I can't believe it's been 5 years, but it started the journey in 2015. And I honestly, I was thinking about it a few months back. And the work at home journey for me actually started a lot more before that, before 2015. I think it was actually right now, 5 years ago, like this month, 5 years ago, is when I enrolled in my first training program to gain skills. But it actually started before that.
Yeah.
Surprised looking back, so I'm excited to talk all about that.
Yeah, and actually now that you say that, 2015, we got started together.
Yeah, we did.
Started at the same time 5 years ago together as court transcript proofreaders. And it's so amazing how the journey has taken us in these incredible directions. Yeah. So I would love to know what made you decide court transcript proofreading at the beginning of your work from home journey when you were choosing your niche. How did you kind of decide that that's what you were going to do?
Well, I was on a blog. I was in Pinterest because Pinterest is like my jam, and scrolling through, just looking ways to make money from home. And like I was saying before, my journey with making money from home actually started a few years before that, when I had a friend teach me how to go. I went to Goodwill Outlet, and I don't know if anyone here has been to Goodwill Outlet. My husband and I didn't make a lot of money, and so I would go to Goodwill Outlet. A friend taught me they have big giant blue bins, and you can just dig through the bins and you can find like shoes and clothes and appliances and all this stuff. But it's like all of the Goodwill rejects go into the Goodwill Outlet. But a friend taught me, hey, you can find all these children's shoes that are in really great condition, but you can repair them and make them better, and then you can sell them at a super cheap price for people to give them a good deal, but you're also making money. So she taught me how to turn 60 cents, because it was like 60 cents a pound at that time.
Wow.
for everything. Or you would buy stuff by the pound at the Goodwill Outlet, turn 60 cents into $5 and turn $5 into $20 and snowball that. And so I got into consignment. So my desire to make money from home started when someone showed me the value of things all around me. And it's not, how I can give value to other people by making something better or putting some time into it and then giving them a great deal. I mean, people being able to buy super nice Keen shoes, which is a nice brand, for $5 for their kids is a huge blessing for them. And I made money for the time I put into repairing the shoes. So that just opened my eyes to this whole world of making money from home. But then I was scrolling through Facebook. So I'm like, I really want to branch out. I want to, I was hungry for learning how to make money from home, but I knew there were so many scams. And I know that the people watching right now, some of them, if not all of them, have experienced that, looking for an opportunity and being hit with scam after scam after scam. There's so many out there. So I decided I'm going to go on Pinterest. I'm going to see if anyone's actually posting legitimate jobs, like legitimate ways to make money from home that isn't me being a call center, isn't me doing MLM or anything like that, or sales. I wasn't interested. Just was not interested in doing those things. And I saw a post from a blogger that I had been following about a proofreading program that taught how to work for court reporters. I'm like, well, I know that's a legitimate industry.
Yeah.
I was still very, very skeptical though, because I've seen so many scams. I mean, for example, I was one of those people that scanned my groceries for, they have those scanning programs. You scan them and then you fill out information about your purchases. For an entire year, I did that.
Wow.
So I'm like, I'm going to be making some money. You know what I got? What I got? A roasting pan.
Was that from Ibotta?
It wasn't Ibotta. It was actually I can't even remember, consumer research panel or something. They sent me a scanner. I scanned it. I'm like, okay, I'm finally going to make money. I made a roasting pan that, you guys, totally got destroyed the first time I washed it. So I didn't even get to use the thing. So I know scams, like I know being ripped off for your time. And I'm like, I find like my time is worth way more than this. Like the time that I spent scanning my groceries, it took me an hour to scan my groceries. What if I could make $15 an hour, $20 an hour, $30 an hour? And I looked back through that entire year of all the hours I spent scanning my groceries and how much money I lost out on doing it.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, I found a program through them. I started emailing with the course creator because I'm like, I'm going to make sure this is a person. I'm going to make sure that this is legit before I spend my money. And then I had a conversation with my husband and said, you know what? What do you think? And that's how I ended up starting that program. And I started as a court transcript proofreader.
That's wonderful. So what was that like? How was that experience?
It was great. It was intriguing for me. I was hungry for learning skills. I was very apprehensive though, because learning a new skill, it is new. It's new territory, which can feel very scary. What if this doesn't work out? What if I spend this money and then I'm left, having made this investment, but I get no return? And so there was some fear involved, but I will tell you, and I'm not going to say this across every niche, but I've known a lot of people across many niches who have had this same experience. I put myself out there with my skills in one Facebook post. Actually, I didn't even advertise my skills. There was someone who was saying, hey, I need a proofreader. And I'm like, oh, hey, I can do that. I have the skills now. And lo and behold, that's how I got my first client. And when I remember the feeling when I got my first payment from her, I cried. And I'm like, I made this money. I learned some skills and I used them to help someone. And all of a sudden I have money in my bank. And within the first month I paid for the course.
That's extraordinary.
Yeah. And that was my goal. So I set a goal as soon as I enrolled in the course. I'm like, if nothing else, I can totally decide I hate this and not do it again, but I'm going to make back what I put into the course at least.
Yeah.
And then at that point, I'll give myself permission to quit if I don't like it. And I ended up going for much longer than that. But yeah, it was a great experience just to get started. And it was what opened my eyes to, oh my gosh, I can learn and apply skills to make money. What else can I learn?
Yeah. So what happened after that? When did things start to transition for you? Because you were a court transcript proofreader, you had clients, you were working. When did this kind of new path, a new fork in the road appear? How did that happen? What made you suddenly start to change direction a little bit?
Well, what first, I didn't do a full pivot at first. What I did was I started noticing my proofreading clients starting to need other kinds of help. And one in particular started needing transcription help. And so
Mm.
at the time, transcription was profitable. And so I got into legal transcription, which is different than general transcription. And I started helping her transcribe her reports. And which is different than being a court reporter, but there's actually digital court reporters who record it and then they have it transcribed. So I started working for someone doing that because I saw a need there. Just being associated with my clients, I was able to start looking around, seeing what other needs they had. So I took a course in legal transcription and started meeting that need. And then I noticed I was making more money doing that than I was with my proofreading. And so both in tandem was becoming very profitable. And I will say, like, my initial goal was to pay off the course. I did that in a month. And so I set a new goal. I said, we want to be able to afford health insurance, because that was at the time when the new healthcare law was taking effect and we didn't have health insurance through my husband's family. And so setting the goal to be able to afford that was the next goal that I wanted to reach. And I blew that one away just by adding one more service to my skill arsenal. So
Mm-hmm. So did your clients change, or you just started learning and adding more skills to accommodate those existing clients and to be able to help them more?
at first I just added more skills and services
Mm-hmm.
for my existing clients. But then I had somebody who interviewed me based because they saw that I was being successful at this thing, and they interviewed me. And this person actually said, man, and this was off the interview. She had just mentioned in passing a need for someone to help her in her online business. And my ears kind of perked up, and I'm like, more skills? You mean I can learn something new? Like, I'm interested. Like, what does that entail? And basically she described she needed a clone. She needed someone to help her in her business do all the back end stuff for her online business. And again, this is online business. This isn't a brick and mortar. And it was totally remote. So I'm like, interesting. So while I was still working with my transcript, my proofreading clients, my transcription clients, I started learning skills to help this person who ended up hiring me as a virtual assistant to help her with the other stuff in her business. And then that's when I realized, ooh, I really like this virtual assisting thing way more than the proofreading thing.
Mm.
And I started to make the pivot.
Okay, wonderful. Now, before we talk about that, because that's something I definitely want to dive into. Alexandria had a question about formal education.
Mm-hmm.
She's saying she never went to college, but she feels very capable.
Mm-hmm.
That and do you think that you need formal education, formal knowledge to create a viable business?
Absolutely not. I've taken a couple college courses. I do not have a degree, an associate's or bachelor's or anything. And so if I were to put it on my resume, it would say some college, and it's like a couple math classes. So just, and this is the other thing I will say. I have worked with people who have those degrees who weren't capable.
Interesting.
And yeah, so it's not about your degree or how much you spend on your education, though that could be an asset. It's about your willingness to learn and apply skills. And if you feel you're capable, then you are capable, because we're all capable of learning something new. So even if you don't know how, for example, to do bookkeeping, if you're determined to learn the skill, if that's a niche you were interested in, then you absolutely can. It doesn't matter what your background is as far as education goes.
And I have to say, I completely agree 100% with Katie, because when I began my first freelance business, I had just graduated high school and I had just started college and I was studying Shakespeare. So you really don't need formal education to do this. So I definitely now want to talk about that transition that you made. You had formed a personal relationship with a client who, or with someone you knew in the industry because of your work, who then express their need for you. And I love that you recognized that you didn't know the skills needed to help her, but you knew you were interested in helping her, so you attained that skill set. And then you got the job. So
Yeah.
I'd love to talk a little bit about what that looked like to attain that skill set, and then to start working with her, what your job looked like as well.
Well, So the way that that specific scenario played out is I didn't take a training course.
Okay.
I learned on the job.
I love it. Wonderful. I love that.
Yes. And so there are a lot of people out there, and especially in online business, who do not mind hiring someone brand spanking new.
Mm-hmm.
There are people who want experience, like, let's be totally honest. But this person hired me brand spanking new, and her reasoning was, I want to train you my way. I want you to know my business and the way I do things. And that is a big advantage. And so, and that's something I took. Well, how I coach people now. I mean, I've never actually, this is something a lot of people know, I've never had to market myself. Never once have I had to market myself, because I've built so many relationships from that one point. But when people are, not everyone has that opportunity. So when you're marketing yourself, that's a good angle to take, is that I am super excited to learn your way of doing things and mold to your business and what you want in your business vision. That was her intention, and I just ate it up. So she hired me. She's like, can you do this? I'm like, boom, done. Boom. Yeah, I can totally organize your inbox. I can totally manage your inbox. I can manage your customer support for your course. She owned an online course. Yeah, absolutely. No problem. And what was really funny, and this isn't the norm, but this, I mean, I try to approach all of my clients from a standpoint of having a ton of compassion for them, because it is hard to run a business.
Oh yeah.
It is hard. And so by the time she wanted to hire someone to be her clone, she was burnt out. She was at her end. It was either shut down the business or get help. And so I would never want someone to lose their business because they were burnt out. So anyway, I came on. She ended up leaving for a month after I was there for 2 weeks, and she trusted me enough. She's like, I'm out for a month. I'm not going to be able to be contacted. Nothing. You're running the business.
Trial
Talk
by
about sink or
fire.
swim.
Yeah.
Like, I don't recommend that should happen to anyone, but it was sink or swim. So I had to learn it, and I did. And the thing is, because I was committed to rise to the occasion, it wasn't long after she came back. She's like, I want you to be my project manager. So I started out as a VA doing inbox management, customer service, getting to know her business, restructuring how things were in her business to make it run more smoothly. And then she recognized what an asset I was to her business. And she's like, nope, you need to be a project manager. And then things started rolling from there.
Okay. Oh, so tell me a little bit about the difference in pay between being a proofreader, transcriptionist, and moving into VA work.
Ooh, that's a really good question. Being a proofreader, I was paid per page.
Per page, yes.
I have to go back. It's been a long time. I was paid per page, and then I think I was paid per page as a transcriptionist also. And so I don't know that I ever broke it down, but it really depended on how quickly I can get the work done, which determined my hourly rate. So sometimes I would make $30 an hour, and then sometimes I would make $5 an hour if it was really, really dense work.
Yeah.
But it was all about how proficient and efficient I was at the skill. Whereas when I started as a virtual assistant, I started at $15 an hour, which for someone with no experience, it's not bad. It's not a bad rate to start at, but you can quickly raise your rates the more skills that you get.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so anyway, I mean, I ended up being hired within 6 months full time with another very popular blogger. A lot of people know this person. And I made much, much more than that when I got hired from her. And so I was making a full-time income more than my husband was making working he did logistics for Intel. And I made more than he did working full-time.
Wow. So in 6 months, after that transition, you were making more. So Aquama has that kind of income question. For those who don't mind hiring someone brand new, I would think that your fee starts lower than after you've developed the skills on a greater level. So how do you then increase your income as your skill level increases?
That's a really good question. And so, for me, like, I never had to go to someone and ask for a pay raise. But some clients, like that's something you have to establish is that it could be that, hey, it's going to be, there's an introductory, like for the first 3 months, this is my hourly rate. But once I get more proficient, then it's going to go up to this. And you guys make that agreement. So there are some people that do it that way. Some people start out at a low rate and then they notify their clients to say, hey, in a month, my rates are going to increase. And either they keep the clients on because they've wowed them with their skills, or they know that they are solid enough in their skill set that they can fill the hole if they lose a client because of the rate increase. For me, like I just, because everyone's scenario is unique, I didn't have to, because I didn't have to market myself. You know, if I had a new client and I'm like, I know I want to offer these services, I'm confident in these skills, that my new clients are coming in at a totally different rate than the current clients. And then do it that way. And so that's kind of how I stair stepped up. And then the lower paying clients, once you gain proficiency, you have specialty skills that you specialize in, then you can drop off other clients that are low paying and replace them with higher paying clients, depending on what you want to do. There's a lot of different ways to do it.
Okay. And I'll get back to the questions that are in the chat, guys. I'm not going to forget you guys, but we're going to answer these at the end. So tell me a little bit about when you were a virtual assistant for this client who then left you alone for a month to let you to just let you run things, and afterwards quickly realized what an asset you were, and she hired you as a project manager. So what did that entail versus what you had been doing as a VA, cleaning up her inbox, handling her customer support? What now did it look like to work for the same company in a different capacity as a virtual project manager?
Well, that was the transition was interesting because I was used to doing all the things. As a virtual assistant, you kind of get in there and you start doing a lot of different tasks. Whereas working as a project manager, I now managed people who were doing the tasks. So I brought in virtual assistants to take over the tasks I was managing. I made sure they had, it's when it comes to management, people think, okay, then you tell them what to do. And it's like, no, you make sure they have what they need to get their job done. So it's a different perspective in management, in my opinion. And so I just wanted to make sure that they had everything as far as skills, they had the right scheduling, all that stuff down. And then I started getting into helping my client with her strategy. I started learning marketing. I started learning all of those things and the different components of her business and how they fit into her overall strategy for growing her business. And that's when I started realizing I really liked the online marketing space, the online business space, and learning all those different things, because quickly I realized people with that knowledge are highly sought after. And the right client knows that when they find a person like that, they better grab a hold of them as fast as they can and never let them go. Do not give them a reason to leave, because they're so highly sought after. And so, that's a little bit of the transition there, is that, I went from doing the inbox management to helping someone fill that role and making sure they had what they need to keep it going, and managing those things, and then starting to manage strategy and all of that stuff. And it really depends. I just want to say this, like, anybody on the call who's like, ooh, I would love to be a project manager, the interpretation of project management versus virtual assisting is a little bit different for each business owner. And so it might be like, oh, you come in with certain skill sets and they might want something different. And so having that clarity, that clarifying conversation before it's, you commit to a client is really important. So, you're both on the same page. And so I say that because, like, when you're learning skills, for example, as a virtual assistant, finding those things you love to do, and then when you are approached by a client or you approach a potential client, you're super specific to say, these are the things that I offer. And that way you're not being given everything in the kitchen sink. You're doing the things that you love to do and building a business you love to run and doing the things you love to do. So I say that again because it can be hard in the online space, online business, to keep there's a lot of virtual assistant, for example, a lot of words are thrown out there. What does that mean?
Right.
It means something different to everybody. Project manager, what does that mean? Well, That's a good question. There are project managers that work for hospitals. There are project managers that work for online or like big marketing firms and for construction companies. And so you got to be really specific in what project management do you do? Do you make sure the team is in place? Do you handle hiring? Do you plan out launches, like product launches and strategy and all that stuff? It's a little bit different for every person. And so anyway, I just wanted to clarify that, like my picture of how it happened and what I learned might be different from somebody's, but it's the possibility, you know.
Right. Yeah. And Brandy has a good question. How long do your assignments last? Are you continuously seeking assignments to replace income during ebbs and flows?
No, and no. I've never had to look for clients. I've never had to fill gaps because, again, when you work in any niche, I won't say any niche, maybe, but like bookkeeping, I don't know that niche, so I won't speak to that. But if you excel at your skills and you wow your clients, usually what I've found is you don't have to look for clients ever. You're never struggling to fill a client spot because someone's trying to get you, or someone's on your waiting list, or you've networked with enough people that you can fill that spot if a spot ever were to arise. I never had a spot. I literally had job offer after job offer after job offer. And then I just kind of followed the path where I felt led. And that's how it's been. So I know that doesn't answer your question, but I'm hoping that gives you some excitement at the possibilities that I think if you're doing it right and you're presenting excellence in everything you do, there's a good chance you won't have to deal with those issues.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's what we talked a little bit about that last night, about learning your skills to a degree of excellence. And we're going to talk a lot about marketing in challenge number 3 as well. Now, Julie says, so how do you handle the conversation if they are looking for something you don't know how to do?
Well, that's up to you.
Mm-hmm.
Are you willing to learn?
Yeah.
If you're willing to learn, then that's what you say. Like, I don't currently offer that, but I'm open to learning it and meeting that need.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and that
I
is
love
what you
it.
can say. If you have space to say, you know what, that's not something that I do, then that's okay too. It really depends on how you want to structure your business. I will be honest, in the beginning, I did everything I was asked. As I gained skills and I realized, those are very highly marketable skills, I was able to remove different tasks from like or offerings for my clients that didn't fill me up, that weren't exciting to me anymore, and whittle it down until I was doing something that I absolutely loved to do. But it takes some time to find that sweet spot.
Yeah. And I love the way you positioned it as, I may not know how to do that, but I will learn and mold myself to your business and learn exactly how you do things. So that was pretty powerful. So did your income change when you went from being a virtual assistant for this client to a project manager for the same client?
Did the pay change? Is that what you said?
Yes.
That's a good question. I think that it did. I have to look back.
Mm-hmm.
I think that it increased, but I cannot remember how much it increased.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't end up working too much longer for that client, probably 4 more months after I became the project manager, because she said, oh, you know what, I'm not going to be doing any more big things, and I think we're good. And so we're just going to kind of keep it going as it is. And I was kind of hungry for more challenges.
Mm-hmm.
And so she actually connected with me with another person who needed some proofreading, which is funny because that took me back to where I started, but it made a connection with, this is funny, the blogger whose article I read. It was that blogger who had reached out to my client for some services, and my client was like, Katie's gonna do it. And I did it. And that is that is the person that ended up hiring me full time because Incredible. They saw what I could do. And she's like, I want to give you more. Do you offer any other services? I'm like, project management. I've never at that point ever actually offered that as anything. I was just kind of lifted up to that position for the client that I was working with. and that person ended up offering me a full-time job doing that.
So this new client contacted your existing client and said, I need a proofreader. Your client said, Katie, who was a proofreader, became my VA, is now my project manager. She can help you. So you proofread for this new client. New client loved you so much, said, what else do you got? And you
Mm-hmm.
said, I can be a VPM. And she
Mm-hmm.
said, let's do it.
Yep.
So, okay. So tell me a little bit about that transition. What did you charge more at that point? What did your job look like now that you had changed?
So that client actually, was I didn't work full time for immediately. I worked part time, just doing, she had some things she wanted to send me, and then she had some project, like kind of test projects. She wanted to feel it out. So about 3 months we did that, and I was charging $25 an hour.
Okay.
So I went from $15 an hour, and then I believe when I made project manager status, I think my pay was bumped up with my current client to $25 an hour. And I'm like, I'm just keeping that. I'm just keeping that. And I will tell you, you guys, I struggled with telling her that number. I struggled to get the
Oh,
$25 an hour out of my mouth because,
oh my
and, and,
gosh.
and a lot of people deal with that though. Like, oh my gosh, I'm asking $25 an hour to do things that I actually really like doing. Would she even pay that for me? She didn't even bat an eyelash. She was like, absolutely, I'll pay you $25 an hour. And she did. That's what I was working part-time, $25 an hour, no formal college education, no degree, nothing. But it's because I learned skills and demonstrated them. She's like, absolutely no problem.
Yeah.
And then it was 3 months after I started doing those projects with her that she sat down with me and she's like, I really want to hire you full time. And it was funny because my original client, we had backed off on some projects because she was kind of slowing down her business. She wasn't sure she wanted to keep it. But then when she caught wind that this other person wanted to hire me full time, she offered me a full time job. So I had two people.
So you had two full-time offers from old client and new client.
Yes.
Okay. So what did
Yes.
you do? How did you decide?
If I'm honest, I prayed a lot. I was praying a lot because I don't like to disappoint people, but I knew I couldn't hold two full-time jobs. There was no way. And so I kind of followed my instinct. I followed where I felt there was more growth potential. And I felt like the new client I was working with, there was far more growth potential. And the pay was definitely, it was more than my husband was making working 14-hour days, full time. And and I was working from home. And so I got to tell my husband, you get to quit your job and come home and be a dad and an artist or whatever you want to be, because of that. And it made the decision easy when I looked at it that way. So.
Okay, that's wonderful. That it really is incredible. So you started working for this new client as your position was a virtual project manager?
Yeah, I was project manager. Yep.
And what were the differences now working as a project manager with this company versus your old one?
So this person wanted like their email service provider, their CRM system. She's like, it's like badly managed. I need someone to come here, clean it up, and our online, promotional campaigns. We need to clean those up. Oh, also, I have these ideas for these courses. I want to create like 20 some odd courses, but I need someone to help me like manage the course, like project process. And I just need someone to tell me what to do, when to get it done, how to get it done. And then they put it together. So a lot of what I did for this person was, we're going to fix all your sites. We're going to create a new membership site. We're going to create all these courses, and I managed them and significantly increased her revenue because, she had someone to do the things she didn't have the bandwidth to do. And then from, the courses that I helped her create, she also started a brand new brand. And we started that, and she had courses associated with that as well. So it was really totally different from what I was doing as a project manager with the client before, which was more behind the scenes, managing the team members. This was a very small team of 3 or 4, and I was solely in charge of getting her new digital products from idea to out there to the public. And that's what I did for her.
Okay. Yeah, that's wonderful. So that's what you were doing, and you were being paid 25 an hour for that.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So
I think okay, so it wasn't an hourly rate. I was on salary, and so the deal that she said, she offered me $52,000 a year for that, and I think it broke down to $25 an hour.
okay, wonderful. For all of you who are asking questions, I am keeping track of them, and we will get to them at the end. But Brandy, you have a question I'm not quite sure I understand. She says, just curious, can you speak to the difference between full-time and full-time freelance at some point? I'm not quite sure that I understand that.
Yeah, I
So,
mean, like, if I can speak to that, in my mind, full time is full time. It doesn't matter what, anything over 40 hours is full time. Sometimes people say anything over 35, 30 hours is full time. But you know, like when I was working as a freelancer as opposed to an employee, because when I was hired full time, I ended up being hired as an employee. And so that is a possibility, you working as a freelancer for someone and then they bring you on as an employee. That's happened to me 3 different times. And so, which is awesome because then you don't have to pay so much in taxes.
yeah.
But you know, as far as your time goes, the time is the same. As far as your pay goes, there are advantages to being an employee. But there's the difference between being an employee and a freelancer is that you do not cap your earning potential as a freelancer. You can do a lot of different things as a freelancer. And then if you roll that into your, you know, you make it a scalable business where you bring on others to work under you, then I mean, your earning potential is significantly higher than if you were to be an employee.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I understand. So yeah, that is what Brandy meant. So, so how did you go now from being a virtual project manager for this new company full time to being an integrator with 5-figure clients? How did that happen?
So it was an interesting story. And so I was working with that client who I was working with full time for a couple years, and I loved it, but I realized towards the end that I had reached my full potential in that position. There was no more opportunity for growth. And I happen to be hungry for growth. Like I love to learn. I love to see how high I can go. And I didn't want to just make courses all the time, which there's nothing wrong with that. But I started really paying attention to what was in alignment with what I wanted to do. And I no longer enjoyed it because I wasn't challenged. And so that's a really important thing. Once you get started, you know, is and learning new skills, is you actually have the freedom to find that fit. And it was at that point where I realized, okay, this has been amazing. I've learned so much, but I think there's something that's missing. And so, what I won't go into the details, but what ended up happening is that I ended up stepping down and starting my own business. And so I became an entrepreneur. I started writing, you know, content for my own course. I had all the skills to do that because I knew how to, you know, I've done it for my clients. So I did that, and they did that quite well. But what happened is, in fact, last summer is when I started missing working with clients. I missed that team feel and the excitement. And so I started, I did my course, you know, my business on the side, but I started accepting clients again. And I had a business coach, which I think everyone should have at some point, who was helping me and remind me to see the value of my skills. Because even though I'm like, oh, cool, I could charge $25 an hour and I feel confident in that. But now my coach was saying, why not 35? You have skills that people pay hundreds an hour for. But I couldn't see that in myself. You know, I couldn't say, oh my gosh, hundreds of dollars an hour. Oh my gosh, I don't know if I could ever charge that. But then she helped me break it down. Like, this is what you're doing. And people are paying twice, 3 times as much for the skills that you're offering. And I just hadn't seen that yet, you know? And so I started taking on clients and I started charging those higher rates. I started doing packages instead of hourly. And my first client, like, I hadn't even announced to people that I was taking clients again, and they were snagging me up. And then again, networking is huge. Making friends, being where people in the industry are, just being yourself really paid off, because I did have a client reach out to me for project managing a specific project. So I'm like, yeah, sure, I'll do this project for you. I'm just taking like project-based work anyway at that point.
Mm.
Um, and I did that, and he loved it so much. And he said, I want to hire you. He's like, first of all, I'm going to figure out a way to make you my integrator full time. And I'm like, no, I have my business. I like the independence. I like all that. He's like, I'm going to figure it out, but I want to hire you for 2 months to be my OBM.
What's an OBM?
Online business manager.
What does that entail?
Yeah, the project manager, online business manager, integrator, people use them interchangeably. In my mind, they have different roles.
Yeah, in my mind as well.
Yeah. So basically he's like, I want you to shore up my business, make some SOPs, which are standard operating procedures for my online business, because I'm doing all the things and I just need it to be organized and better so I can start hiring team. And I said, yeah, I could do that. And that was my first 5-figure contract with the client, working part-time for 2 months.
So he offered you $10,000 for 2 months of your time, but you would be working part-time those 2 months. That's incredible. So, and that was to help him to write his standard operating procedures for his business so he could streamline and finally hire a team.
Yeah, that was part of it. I helped him. I mean, like, again, I worked with him for about a month and a half, managing his rebrand. So he rebranded his whole business, but he needed someone to manage that for him to make sure everything was handled. And I came in and I did it. I had a virtual assistant working under me who helped me with the project. So I brought her. She was my personal virtual assistant. So I brought her in, and she helped me with the project, and he was blown away. He's like, okay, can I hire you for 2 more months? And I said, yeah, sure, and signed the contract. And then we started organizing his business. And then it was December that he reached out to me, said, I want you full time. I want you as a full-time employee in my business, with a lot of perks. I won't go into the perks, but there's some great perks, and doing all the things that I've ever loved doing, with uncapped growth potential as far as what I can learn, my skills, my income, all of that. And so it was like the dream. It was the dream. It married like the independence that I loved with owning my own business with, the security of being an employee, but also being able to learn all the things. Because an integrator, for those who don't know, is, again, depending on who, a lot of people don't know the term. It's from Rocket Fuel. There's a book called Rocket Fuel. And the business owner is the visionary, and the integrator is basically the person who takes the vision and makes it happen, which is super exciting because I feel like a magician. Like, I'm magical. I can turn that vision into reality, which is in a way is what a project manager does. But I'm also the number 2 in the business. I am my client's voice for everything. So I can make decisions in the business. I don't own any part of the business, but I have all of the I get to strategize. I get to have the creative input. I get to build a team that, that works well together. All of those wonderful things that I loved about owning my own business and helping my clients, I get it all and lumped up in this perfect package. So.
Yeah. So I'm curious, how do you define the differences between project manager, online business manager, and integrator? And Isabella says, this is also exciting and inspiring. So happy for you, Katie.
Thank you, Isabella. I feel so blessed. And anyway, thank you very much. So my thoughts are between a project manager and an OBM. When I worked as a project manager, I didn't really write. I mean, I wrote some SOPs, but I had no say in the business vision. I didn't really do a lot of hiring as a project manager in the roles that I had with the clients that I had. But if you're hired as a project manager, they might give you tasks of an integrator or give you tasks as an OBM, because again, sometimes those terms are used interchangeably. The way I use them is a project manager literally manages the projects. They make sure that it's task management, making sure everyone has everything and that everyone's meeting the deadlines that are given and planning that all out. An OBM is, does that, but then they add in the layer of making sure all the standard operating procedures are in place. They manage hiring and all of those things. Whereas an integrator is in a partnership with the visionary, the business owner. And again, that's not that I am partner in the business as far as I don't own any of the business. I'm a partner in the vision for the business.
Mm-hmm.
And so my client, who is now my employer, he values me equally with himself, as my input is always asked for everything. And again, that is because of the client I have. But the great thing is I got to choose that client. I chose to work with that client. If I had someone undervaluing me or not making me feel like part of the vision, I probably wouldn't have worked with them. So there are people out there that may not give that much freedom to their integrator, but I know people do in the industry. James Wedmore, I don't know if a lot of people know James Wedmore, but I know that Adrian and I do.
Oh yeah, he's wonderful.
Big, yeah, he's big in the online marketing space. The way he treats his integrator, she's more important than he is, even though he's the face of the business. And so, and if you're good at what you do and you have that understanding of the weight the visionary holds, then you get to lighten their burden and make magic happen in the business. And all of a sudden you are indispensable. Plus you're having a ton of fun if that's what you like to do. For me, I have tons of fun in my role as an integrator, but it's definitely more in my mind than an OBM, because as an OBM, that can be contract work. You can be an online business manager for multiple people. Tina Forsyth is one that created a training program for that. And I know there's a lot of people in our community that are, they do multiple clients. But for me, an integrator is like the visionary's ride or die. Like, we are in the business together and, we're both invested. So if that makes sense, I hope that kind of differentiates a little bit between the three, in my mind at least.
And I'm just curious, what is your favorite kind of responsibility as an integrator in your job right now? What's your favorite thing, if you had to choose? Oh my
gosh, I'm on the spot. To pick one, in my unique relationship with my employer, which is, again, they're all unique. I feel like there is a perfect integrator for every visionary, and there's a perfect visionary for every integrator. But I just love feeling, and this isn't a responsibility, I'll get to that. I love feeling like such an integral part of the vision and get to put input into the business, which is so fun. But my favorite responsibility, I think, is actually being a part of the community and interacting with his audience, because I'm now known in his audience. Like, I am the integrator. Everyone knows Katie as the integrator. And that was one thing I loved about having my own business, was the relationship that I've developed in my community. And now I have that. And it's part of my job, but it doesn't feel like a job, that part of it.
Mm-hmm.
And the strategy. I love strategizing launches and promotions and all that stuff. That is just, we can have so much fun just dreaming up things. So yeah.
Wonderful. Okay, this was fantastic. I want to go through a few of the questions that people asked. Some of them are quite different from each other. I know Izzy asked, how do you know how much to raise your rates by? Okay, everybody, we are back. So that was our interview with the wonderful Katie Chase. And I know that we have a few questions that you guys submitted. So I have from Peggy, this is a question for both of you. I have taken Scopus training and also edited other authors' books for free. For the legal transcriptionist, did you also receive electronic files? And mostly I want to know, did you need to learn the court recorder's special recording language in order to decipher, to transcribe? So Katie and I were not transcriptionists. We were court transcript proofreaders. So the court reporter took down, and you know this because you're a scopist, but the court reporter took down the proceedings, and then we proofread the transcript to make sure everything looked good. So we usually receive the files via PDF or the actual file from the court reporter software. Your other question, did we need to learn the court reporter's special recording language, stenography? No, we did not. That's something a proofreader doesn't need to know. A scopist needs to know it though, trying to decide which would be the better proofreading to do. So, the distinction between proofreading and scoping, proofreading being essentially it's the difference between proofreading and editing. Proofreaders find the mistake, editors fix it. That's a very simplistic definition. But in this case, the proofreader is looking at the transcript, just making sure, catching stray errors, whereas the scopist would be in the document, making the changes and listening to the entire audio of the proceedings to make sure that everything has been transcribed properly. Now, obviously there's a difference in pay. Proofreading pays far less, scoping pays far more because it's much more in depth. Usually scopists have less clients and more regular work. So they may only have 3-4 clients that they work with, but it's regular, stable work. Whereas proofreaders may have a dozen clients that send them sporadic work and things like that. So it really just depends there, but scoping tends to be the more stable and the higher paying. So that's what I would say there. So thank you all for joining us for this bonus class with Katie. It's something that the lessons that you can learn from Katie's story are far reaching in the work from home journey. You can really take one thing that I love about her, that I may love the most about her story, is her desire and enthusiasm for learning skills, her fearlessness in the face of, I don't know how to do that. That is something that if you all cultivate as a trait and as a discipline in your own business, is going to make you indispensable to clients. Is that attitude of, don't know how to do it, but I can learn and then I'll do it for you. That kind of, if that's all you take from her interview, then that's enough. But there's so much to take from it. So I'll leave the replay up for you guys. But Katie's story is incredible, but it's actually not very uncommon. You begin as an online freelancer with the niche that you've chosen. You don't always stay in that niche forever. Your business evolves, new opportunities come up, forks in the road appear, and you make decisions on the go. I mean, it's pretty incredible when I look back to, the people who began as proofreaders with me, how many of them are still doing it? How many of them have transitioned into new and exciting things that they never thought was possible when they first began the journey? So it is important to, choose your niche properly and to get going. And I'll give you my 4-step process for choosing the right niche on Monday. But remember that this work from home journey is going to be something, it won't be predictable. It'll take you for a loop, and that's an exciting thing and a really good thing. Your business will grow, you will grow organically. So I think those are all the questions that I have. If you guys have any other questions, you can email them to me or post them in the Facebook group. There's no live stream tomorrow. I may go live in the Facebook group just for fun, but there won't be any classes tomorrow because I want you all to rest, because on Monday we begin with challenge number 1. So you will have an email from me in your inbox in the morning with the day's challenge, and that'll be in a PDF. And the challenges are designed to take you about 15 minutes to do, because I know we're all busy. So you'll have all day to do it. Even if you don't get it done, doesn't matter, because in the evening is the strategy session for that day's challenge. That's when I will go live like I am here, and I will give you the strategies, the tips, the steps, everything that you need to know. So even if you don't get the challenge done, doesn't matter, be there live for those sessions, because I also answer your questions. So I can't wait to get started on Monday. If you need me or the team, we are in the Facebook group. You can also reach me via email. I can't wait. Rest up, everybody. Tomorrow, rest, take it easy, because we begin with the 5-day challenge on Monday, and I, for one, cannot wait. All right, everyone, have a wonderful day, and I'll talk to you very soon. Bye-bye.